I walked out of that bookstore thinking about dinner, about whether my nephew would actually read the book I'd just bought him about nothing important at all. And then I heard someone yell, "Hey, stop!" 3 seconds later, I was face first on the hood of a police car, metal cold against my cheek cuffs biting into my wrists, and a stranger filming while whispering, "Yeah, that happened. That's how fast normal turns into nightmare, you know what I mean?" I remember thinking, this has to be a mistake. I hadn't run, hadn't argued, hadn't done anything except exist in the wrong body at the wrong moment. 2 officers stood over me. One was older, broad, comfortable in his anger like it was a broken-in jacket. The other was younger eyes, darting hands, hovering like he didn't trust himself. The older one kept pointing at the little paper bag under my arm. "You stole something. Open it." Not asked, ordered. I told him calmly, because calm keeps you alive. Sometimes I paid inside. The clerk can tell you. He didn't even look back at the store. Didn't care. When I opened the bag and showed him the book, just a book wrapped as a gift, his face didn't soften. It tightened, like the truth annoyed him. He flipped through the pages, waiting for something illegal to fall out, and when nothing did, he grabbed my wrist hard and said, "You're coming with us anyway." That's the moment the fear finally landed. Not loud fear, quiet fear, the kind that sinks into your bones and says, "This isn't about evidence, this is about power." I asked what I was being arrested for. He leaned in close and said low enough that only I could hear, "We'll figure that out." Phones came up around us. Someone yelled that I hadn't done anything. The older officer snapped back for them to mind their business. The younger one wouldn't look me in the eye. I was shoved into the back of the car, cuffs, 2 tight wrists already burning, and as the door slammed, I caught my reflection in the glass. I looked calm. Inside, I was replaying every story I'd ever heard, every warning passed down like family lore. Don't talk back. Don't move too fast. Stay alive. Here's the part that still feels surreal when I say it out loud. I wasn't just anyone. I was in that city quietly for work, federal work, the kind that doesn't come with flashing lights or security details. I spent my days investigating police departments for misconduct, corruption, abuse of power. I'd testified in rooms where men like that officer suddenly found their voices very polite. But none of that mattered in the back of that car. Titles don't protect you once someone decides you don't deserve respect. They took me to an older precinct, not the shiny downtown one. Inside smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. They walked me past the front desk like they didn't want anyone asking questions. In a holding area, the older officer dumped my bag on a table, reached inside, and pulled out a silver bracelet I had never seen before in my life. He held it up, smiling. "Found this in your bag. Shoplifting." I stared at him. "That's not mine." He shrugged. "Sure it is." That's when it clicked. He planted it. Just like that. No hesitation. No fear. Like it was routine. I asked for a phone call. He laughed and said I didn't get to make demands. Then they locked me in a cell. Concrete bench. Rusted bars. A camera watching every breath. I stood there telling myself not to cry. Not because crying is weak, but because I knew it would be used against me. Emotional, unstable, guilty looking. A few minutes later, the captain walked in. Tall, clean uniform, cold eyes. The kind of man who doesn't yell because he doesn't need to. The older officer handed him the bracelet and said, "Caught her stealing." The captain barely glanced at it. "Hold her. No bail." I said, "That's not lawful." He leaned closer to the bars and said very softly, "In this building, it is." Then I noticed a screen nearby with my face on it. Arrest footage. Someone was editing, cropping, cutting. I realized they weren't just framing me in a report. They were framing me online. And sure enough, not long after a video hit social media from an anonymous account, a stitched clip that made it look like I'd slipped that bracelet into my bag. A lie dressed up as proof. Meanwhile, the real videos were spreading too. The sidewalk footage, me being slammed against a car, people arguing in the comments, some saying it was wrong, others saying, well, she must have done something because that's how it goes. Innocence isn't enough if people don't want to believe you. Standing there, I thought about my dad. Years ago, he got pulled over for a taillight that magically worked again once the stop was over. He came home quiet, sat at the table, and told me, "It's not about what you do. It's about what they think you are." That sentence came back to me like a bruise being pressed. Later, I overheard the older officer laughing with the younger one in the hallway. Not the first time, he said. "Plant it, make it stick. They never fight back." The younger one laughed too, but it sounded wrong, nervous. That's when I noticed something strange. In the corner of the ceiling behind a loose tile, a tiny red light blinking. Not the official camera, something else, someone else watching. Hours passed. Then a janitor came down the hall pushing a mop bucket, slow and careful. He stopped at my cell and whispered, "Don't react." He slid a beat-up burner phone through the bars like it was nothing. I stared at him. "Who are you?" "Name's Leon," he said. "Used to be a cop. Spoke up once. Lost everything. Now I clean." He glanced toward the hallway. "That captain is dirty. Offshore money, payoffs. I've been collecting proof." I asked why he was giving it to me. He looked tired, angry. "Because they picked the wrong woman tonight." I crouched in the corner out of view and called my deputy. She answered on the first ring, already panicked. I told her where I was, what they'd done, and she didn't hesitate. "Stay alive," she said. "We're moving." I barely had time to hide the phone before the cell door flew open. The older officer dragged me out, searched me hard, demanded the phone. I said nothing. Then he yelled for Leon. 2 officers dragged him in, bloodied, one eye swelling shut. My chest tightened. Not shock, recognition. This is how the system protects itself. They shoved me back into the cell. As the door slammed, something clattered near the cot. Another burner phone, cracked screen. Leon had planned for this, even knowing what would happen to him. That's when I realized they were powerful but sloppy, arrogant, and arrogance leaves openings. By morning, protesters were outside. News vans. The story was everywhere, even without my name. 2 days later, they brought me to court and jail, clothes, wrists still marked. My lawyer stood up and told the judge who I was. The room shifted. The prosecutor looked sick. The older officer took the stand and lied with confidence. Bracelet, receipt. Caught her red-handed. My lawyer pulled it apart piece by piece. Wrong time stamps. No store footage. Arrest before discovery. You could feel the room leaning toward the truth. Then the judge denied bail anyway. And I knew. He was part of it too. What they didn't count on was the internet being faster than their control. Leon had already passed his evidence to a journalist before they caught him. That afternoon, she went live with documents, audio bank transfers, the captain ordering edits, talking about targets. The machine started eating itself. Federal agents raided the precinct. Officers were pulled out in cuffs, computers seized. When they opened my cell, an agent said, "You're coming with us." I walked out slowly. Not weak, deliberate. I wanted them to see me standing. The captain was arrested. The older officer, too. The younger one didn't resist. He looked relieved, like someone had finally stopped him from becoming a monster. You'd think that's the end. Justice served. But life doesn't do clean endings. Later that night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "You think this is over?" It's bigger than one precinct. A photo followed, a fundraiser, smiling faces, judges, politicians, the captain standing comfortably among them. That's when it really hit me. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly how some people want it to work. We got those men, but who trained them, who protected them, who's still out there doing the same thing, quieter, smarter? I went into that bookstore thinking about dinner. I walked out remembering that respect isn't evenly distributed, and sometimes you don't get justice because you're right, you get it because you refuse to disappear. So I want to ask you something. Was that officer just racist, or was he taught that behavior? Was that captain an exception or a symptom? And if you were there, would you record, would you speak up, or would you tell yourself it's not your problem? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you've been followed, accused, or treated like you didn't belong, share that too. Subscribe and tell me this. Where do you think the real power is hiding, and what should happen to people who abuse it?